of Baba TV, Every Time Fire. And as you can see, I have my beloved Baba Tehuti, who I haven't seen in a few months since the last time I was in DC. But thanks to this wonderful these live streams, I can pull him right on down so he can talk to the people. Uh, Baba Tehuti, thank you very much for giving me some of your time, sir. It's good to see you. I'm so happy to see you. And we always want to continue to hear from you and draw from your wellspring of knowledge and information that you have. And it's a lot going on today. We're very angry. We're very upset. And I just thought that I would reach out to you so that you could talk to our people today about what's going on. So with that being said, family, I would like to present back on Baba TV. It's my absolute privilege and honor to bring on this brother of mine, an elder, a mighty teacher of mine right here, Baba Tehuti. Take it away, sir.
Baba Every Time Fire. Good afternoon. It's good communicating with you during these times. You're right. It's been a few months since we have communicated. And in fact, the last time we communicated, in a way of speaking, it was a different type world. I don't think that we're going to ever go back to the way it was in January of 2020. We're going through a transformation that will radically change the lives, the way lives are lived in the future in this country. You see, I'm sitting here. I haven't seen my barber in 5 months, so I'm not. I'm not as groomed as I normally would be, but I'm sitting here at home, quarantined in Washington D.C., taking all of this in. After 75 years of life, and having seen all kinds of things, being a veteran of the Vietnam War, I mean, I've seen death. I've seen death coming at me. I've seen the results of war, but I've never seen anything like this. It almost reminds me of a conversation I had with my paternal grandmother back in the 1970s. When she was telling me about the times when my father was born, which was 1919. And that was when the Spanish flu epidemic swept across the globe. And the things that she had to go through during those ages. Well, I'm going through it now. I'm upset. I will admit I have a type of fear, and the fear emanates from the two facts. Number one, Black people are dying at a higher percentage rate, excuse me, from this pandemic than other people. And even worse, older people are dying at a higher percentage rate than any other age group during this pandemic. And to have people in government back in March make a statement that if you're old and you come down with this and go to the hospital, that since they didn't have enough respirators for everybody, they would tell old people, well, you've lived your life and we're going to use the respirators on younger folk who might stand a better chance of surviving this. So being a senior citizen and hearing the government take an official stance that they're not doing everything they can to save old people if we get sick, it's a frightening statement. But on top of that type of condition, too, I have unfortunately had the opportunity to watch a lot of television and to very recently see a video recorded by some young folk of another example of police murder And to see it streamed live on TV like that, after having had an incident just 4 to 6 years ago in New York City, where a brother is literally choked to death by the police as he is saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And to see a black man laying face down on the pavement with a police officer's knee in the back of his neck, and he is saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." He even uses the term "sir," trying to be polite to this animal. And to hear this police officer with the full power of the state, with his knee in the back of this brother's neck, joking and making fun of him, and to know that there were 3 other police officers surrounding this activity, one of them an ethnic minority, and they did nothing as police officers to prevent a man from murdering a man in broad daylight who was accused of using a counterfeit $20 bill. And I mean, for $20 for whatever. And they don't even know if the brother knew it was counterfeit. He had a bill in his hand and went in to buy something. And when it was reported, they hadn't established the fact that this brother was a counterfeiter. There's a counterfeit head of a counterfeiting ring, and to murder him on camera. It makes a brother like me, it brings my emotion into my analysis of the society that we're living in. I try to keep my emotions out of it, but this really pissed me off. It won't be the last one that we'll see. I mean, we saw a brother shot down or tracked by 3 white vigilantes in Georgia, and one jumps out of a truck with a gun to stop a brother that they suspect might be a burglar. And the incident ends up the brother protecting himself, and they shoot him down like a dog in the street. Where are we, America, in 2020? What type of reaction do you expect from us as Black men, as African American men? Are we to continue to be passive? Are we to continue to sit back and wait for the goodness that might be in some of you to bring justice to the relationships between Blacks and whites in America in 2020? We just finished a period of 8 years when African American man served as president, brought high honor and distinction to the office. He didn't do a lot of direct reparations or re-empowerment of Black people, but he brought dignity to the office. And then you turn around and elect a fool, an imbecile, a low intelligent rich person whose father's money got him through in life, not his intelligence. A man that skipped science classes, that can't even pronounce scientific words. He's always been a hustler, a flim-flam man, a rich man who only knows the con game of making money in capitalism. You made this idiot president. Now look where we are. When the science was brought to him, he refused to want to believe it because he couldn't understand it. And look where the country is today. This is a pitiful situation. I don't like to rant and ramble. I like to engage in thoughtful, in-depth thought and conversation about topics and subjects. But right now, I'm emotionally impacted by 8 weeks of quarantine and isolation, limiting my ability to go outside and do things and visit people and friends. So I'm in a little bad shape intellectually at this point. But for the young generations, I mean, the life will go on. The country, human populations will recover from. As I saw one of the New Age young scholars on Baba TV just a couple of days ago. I want to give a shout out again to young Pharaoh. I have so much respect for this young man ever since I saw his first video. And I'm so happy to say that I had the pleasure, the opportunity to meet him one-on-one and talk to him. And I am a young Pharaoh fan, and I want to encourage him to continue to read. I was just so in love with what he said in that video about how he gets his knowledge. So he reads books, he surfs the internet, he look up topics on Google and reads them, and any other sources that he can get. He does not limit himself to one source of information. In order to have a broad perspective and understand any topic, you need to use many sources. And he explained that in a very beautiful way. So I want to shout, and if in any way that I can empower him to keep moving forward, if I can empower the younger generation to understand that this young man is an intelligent young man. He found himself in a situation where he began to educate himself, and he knows how to bring the information from the intellectual level to the people's level. That's why he has the followers that he has in terms of numbers, because people understand what he is saying. And I have a lot of respect for the brother, so I want to give a shout out to him, but also a shout out to all the rest of you conscious brothers and sisters around the world who watch Baba Every Time Fire TV. Baba is doing something unique, and I hope that you all will continue to tune in, listen to the guests that he brings on, bringing information from all types of perspectives. But now that we have the technology that we have access to, we can educate ourselves, find out what is really going on from the street level up, amongst all of our people. So again, continue to use this type of technology. I think I've been saying, at least for the last 5 years, to Baba Dave, Baba Every Time Fire, keep moving forward. And he has continued to move forward. I want to give a shout out to a young man all the way over on the West Coast. That I think he was about 18 years old when I first met him some years ago, about 20 years ago. Brother Baba AD, man, I watched you. You have grown. You have an in-depth knowledge of those topics that you are covering. And I want to encourage you to continue to bring the information to the people. And again, for all of us as a human community here on the earth, don't get trapped and miss some information because of somebody's complexion. You will make a tragic mistake. All people with melanin are not gods, and all people without melanin are not evil. As such, there are people who are everyday common people working for the total upliftment of humankind. And we come in all shades, colors, ethnicities around the globe, that we as such. So I just want to give that shout out to everybody. And again, I also want to go back a few minutes and give a warning about the remedies that the scientific and government communities will be offering for this COVID-19, these vaccines or these shots. They are experimenting with all kind of stuff because they don't know how to stop it. And the first generations of what they are offering as vaccines and medicines might not work 2 or 3 years down the line. So you first people who are going to start taking them are really going to be guinea pigs to see if it's going to work. For senior citizens like myself, we can't afford to take experimental medicines. So if we're intelligent, we're going to wait and see. We're going to avoid all the young folk running around out in the street, not covered up, not wearing masks. We have the most to fear, again, as senior citizens. You young folk, you can infect or reinfect each other and be what they call, and not have any symptoms and be spreading this thing. But we must be very careful as these people try to develop a vaccine for the first time in their history at what they call warp speed. Warp speed science doesn't work. All right, science is methodical, and they have developed vaccines over the years that has changed the life of human beings. Measles and smallpox and a lot of diseases, polio, that are rarely seen anymore because of the work of the scientists and doctors. This one, they don't have a grip on it yet. They're working hard. But to say that they can develop an effective medicine that won't harm people in a few months is a pipe dream. And I am not at all enthusiastic about looking forward to taking any type of medicine that has been developed very quickly to try to pull the wool over the people's eyes as if they have really developed a remedy for this. Have a cure for it, and they don't have a vaccine that can prevent you from getting it. So they're working on two different things. If you get it, you would hope to be able to get some medicine that can cure you of it once you have it. But the purpose of the vaccines is to try to make your body immune to the virus so that if you come in contact with it, your body won't develop the virus itself and all the illnesses that comes with that. So they're working on two different things, and they're working at, again, what they call warp speed to try to develop something. Well, rather than put just something into your body, you want to be a thinker. You want to analyze. You want to know what are the negatives of what they have found, and you want to know what are the positives. You want to think about it before you make the decision that they can stick you or make you take a pill or whatever it is they come up with to try to prevent this thing. There are two aspects of it, and be very careful in terms of what they're going to try to do. Trump is trying to come up with something so that he can fool enough of you to vote for him to make him president for another 4 years. Why? Because this is the first president that's making millions of dollars off of just being the president. Everywhere he goes, at his rallies, he's got a whole crew of people out there selling all those folks who show up hats, t-shirts, and all kind of stuff with his name on it, or stuff about him and his presidency. He's got for the first time in the history of American politics, he has a chairman of his campaign that's made almost $1 billion profit off being the chairman of the campaign. A guy who 4 years ago was a know-nothing in terms of politicians. All of a sudden he's in, and he's making dollars hand over heels. Got a cars, houses, boats, just down in Florida, all over the place. I mean, it's really a shame that so many poor working things for the regular working class person in this country as any president in the history of the 45 of them. He's 45, but he's an embarrassment. Here's a guy that rather than having a staff and working on trying to figure this thing out, he spends his evenings and weekends tweeting about all kind of bullshit. Nothing of substance, but anything as distraction so that the average person won't look at the fact of what a total failure he is as a man. And again, just when this guy was running, I mean, this is something I've never heard a decent man say. I've never heard a decent man say that my daughter looks so good that I would go to bed with her myself, but she's my daughter. Now, what kind of man is that you want to elect to be the president of the United States? But that's where we are, like, and the result of it is here we are following a man who had a pandemic office in the White House, who had people stationed overseas in China and all over the World Health Organization to try to get advance warnings if anything was out there that might come and infect the American population. But you know what, white people? And this is guys like the head of your Senate, what's his name, Mitch McConnell, just didn't like this man because the information came from a black man. Therefore, once Trump got into the White House, a year and a half in, he destroys the pandemic office, disassembles it, disperses it. And when questioned about it, then he claims he didn't know anything about it. But yet, this is the kind of man that's the president of the United States. So, Baba, again, I know you have a more conscious audience that likes a conversation about a lot of other things. And I don't want to bore your worldwide audience with the rambling of an old man. But
oh no, sir, you're not boring us at all. And I insisted that that you come on here against your wishes, kind of, until we got the technology straight. Family, I know
you
the
said
brother
I'm not
Tehuti is
bored.
not coming in the
Again,
best
I just
right
want
now.
to bring knowledge.
A little bit.
Young folk have your own way that you view the world, your own level of knowledge, and you draw your own conclusions. And I understand the conscious community as such, and I have a whole lot of respect for, again, you as the broadcaster. And I have a whole lot of respect for your worldwide audience, because they like you and they like what you've been bringing from the entertainment industry, from the intellectual industry, from the Black nationalist interest. You cover the paradigm in a very, very, very beautiful way. So I want to tip my hat to you and hope that, again, this is still only the beginning steps in your worldwide network, and that people across the world will turn away from the corporations that's broadcasting information, calling it news, and their entertainment programs, and will turn more to outlets like yours and listen to more people that that you've run into. Just to share with the people, I've been a very lucky man during my 75 years here on the earth, especially the last 50 years. Just for your audience to know, in 1973, 74, when I hooked back up with Kwame Ture, at 75 now, I can say, hey, I was one of the brothers that joined with him in helping to form the All African People's Revolutionary Party. My generation wanted to bring information and knowledge to our generation from a different perspective. Our primary focus was organizing on college campuses, because we wanted to get to the minds of the young people that were in school, that were transforming from young teenagers to young adults. One of our primary emphasis in 1974, in 1970, if you call most Black people Africans in this country, a lot of them would have shot you or would have, stoned you or cussed you out. But one of our primary goals was to get Black people to understand that we're Africans. See, like, and we've come along, you know, in that time, the proper government name for us was Negroes. See, one of the achievements that the English like to put forth, especially the English who now call themselves Americans, that they successfully achieved the idea of transforming the African into a Negro. They made a Negro out of the African. And through the era of our captivity, or what some people call enslavement, through the era of Jim Crow, we went through a whole lot of changes trying to find an identity or accept the identity that the white man said he made us into. And part of what brings you freedom is freeing your mind. You free your mind and the rest of your body, or as George Clinton said, free your mind and your ass will follow. So if you know who you are, if you know that you're an African, your interests become the interests of Africans as opposed to the interests of Negroes. The interest of the Negro was to assimilate, to integrate into what the white man had built for himself. The interest of the African was freedom of mind and then freeing himself so that he can create for himself industries, create a connection between himself here on the continent, in the Caribbean and South America. There are enough of us to be the third largest country in the world if we intellectually were to unite in our mind as such. So we had to take a different direction. During this time, I had the pleasure of meeting John Henry Clark and Doc Ben. John Henry Clark is the African scholar who analyzed my name and told me that I should call myself Tehuti. I didn't right away. But a few years later, I did. And that relationship I had with Doc Ben and John Henry Clark in Washington, D.C., driving them out to Montgomery County, Maryland, to a friend of ours' apartment that was sponsoring them with a work study group that she had helped create, a break the chain study group, where folks, not college students, but working class folks who wanted more knowledge. And we decided she's a professor at Howard University, but people who had married early, started work early, but didn't get a chance to go to college and needed to hear African intellectuals and scholars. So this sister formed a group, and we brought a lot of African scholars here to Washington, D.C. to meet the people and talk to the people in a non-university environment. Ivan Van Sertima. I've been a friend of Tony Browder's for over 30 years. So I have a friend up in New York, a lot of you know, Dr. James Smalls. So I've been in an environment with conscious people that's about lifting our people, freeing our people's mind, and trying to move us forward. Your future, where you need to go, what you need to keep your mind, what I would suggest you keep your minds trained on. I'm not a know-it-all, so I can't tell you what you actually should do. But understand intellectually that how you view the world, the paradigm which you view the world, controls what you do. Let me give you an example of that. When most of you were little kids, your parents pulled what I call a social engineering trick on you, or the society you grew up in. If once a year you got toys and presents, if you said you believed in a Santa Claus, and the more you believed in the Christmas trick and the Santa Claus thing, the more rewards you got. Another time of the year, they say this is something special. And if you believe in the Easter bunny and this Easter stuff, we're going to give you some chocolate eggs, some jelly beans, and other kind of stuff, right? So you begin to think that believing something will get you rewards. So your beliefs become more important than what you know. And a lot of people to this very day have their beliefs as their primary source of information and their knowledge base as the secondary source of their information. That's technology. See, so to get, like to make you think that your beliefs are more important than knowledge. Well, again, going back to something that young Pharaoh said in one of his lessons, so I can't name him specifically. If I'm wrong, Brother Pharaoh, I'm not trying to say anything negative about you. But what you know, your knowledge base is always more important than your belief systems, because your belief systems are just halfway stations in your mind and an avenue for you to go out and investigate and research and find out whether the belief is true or not true, if it's a valid thing or not a valid thing. So your knowledge base is always more important. What you know is more important than what you believe. Always put knowledge ahead of beliefs, the foundation. And the last thing is one of the old adages from our ancient civilization and society. All right. Know yourself. Find out who you are, what you are. Know that. And then, see, once you know yourself, you will love yourself. The black murder amongst youth across this country in the poorest parts of the cities or the ghettos or the suburbs, that's self-hatred. If you hate a black boy, if you hate yourself, anybody who reminds you of yourself, you'll kill it. You have no respect at all. When you have no respect for yourself, then you don't respect other selves that look just like you or who remind you of you. But knowledge of who you are, knowledge of self will bring you to a better place. So in the music, in the rap songs, in the poems, in the performance arts, in the culture, the lead should be upliftment of self and knowledge of self as such. Not just entertainment, not just singing boohoo songs about having lost a loved one, like a girlfriend or boyfriend, like not songs just glorifying your physical attributes as you engage in sex. Your art, your culture should be about you and your quest for knowledge of yourself. Know thyself. So Baba, it's not a lot else that I can say during this time right now. Again, I want to thank you for giving me these few minutes to share a little bit of information with the Baba TV audience worldwide. Much respect to everybody. Let's love ourselves. Let's learn more about ourselves. And let's lift ourselves up and not depend on the government or a social organization or a system to take care of ourselves. The biggest attribute of manhood is taking care of your family. Love you, Baba. Peace.
I love you too very much. And family, blame me for our elders breaking up. He really didn't want to do this until he's got a laptop that he has to get an Apple that he needs to get straight. So he's doing that off of his phone. And I begged him and begged him and begged him and begged him and begged him. So this is my fault but he still came in clear and concise enough, and the message was clear enough. And that's the important thing for us to be able to hear what he had to say to us this evening. And he will be back very shortly. You will be seeing him in the near future on a regular and consistent basis. With that being said, family, thank you, Tehuti. Peace, Black Power.